Hello, everyone. My name is Brianne Lozinski, and I am the creator of Soul's Compass Healing. We are somehow meeting here today. I'm standing in the forest as I do, listening to the birds and the stillness that is here. And this exploration of this full moon in Gemini happening on November 26th or 27th, depending on where you are at in the world, is packed full of stuff to talk about. And I have not written a script this time. I'm going to be freestyling. And my hope is that y'all can be accepting of the fact that me putting out these videos is above and I guess above all, it is an experiment. And so yes, it's providing me a platform to share my ideas with folks, which I absolutely love, and hopefully y'all are getting something out of it, because that's obviously the point. And another point is to recognize and find my rhythm and my creative flow and experiment with different ways of approaching this. And so today we're going freestyle, which is quite daring considering Mercury is square Neptune, but whatever. We're gonna try to make meaning out of a time that feels so full of questions like, what is the point? Why am I here? What is the meaning of all of this? And so, yeah, let's dive in. Okay, so this full moon is in the sign of Gemini. It is illuminated by the Sun, Mars, and Ceres, all in the early degrees of Sagittarius. Ceres actually at 0 degrees Sagittarius. And I want to start off this video with talking about this Mars-Sun conjunction. So back in the summer, I spoke a lot about when Venus went retrograde and had her conjunction with the Sun, which coincides with the Inanna journey of willingly going into the underworld, yada, yada, yada. I won't repeat myself. I talked about it a lot. And at the end of that story, of Inanna's story, there is, when she comes up and out of the underworld, her partner actually gets called into the underworld, and he runs away from that call, and the spirits chase him and chase him and chase him and chase him and chase him, and his running away, his resistance to that just makes it harder and harder for him, and eventually, yes, he does choose to go into the underworld, and if my memory is serving me correctly, actually, I think what made him choose to go was that the gods were then going to send for his sister, I think, to go in his place, and then he said, okay, no, I will go. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm very interested in how the astrology reflects this particular story. So we have Venus, who astrologically, has risen as a morning star. And then we have now Mars going, just right now in its conjunction with the Sun. And when Venus is in that placement, we would say that she is entering the underworld. So does that mean that Mars is? I don't know. What do you think? Is it, how can this be applied? Can it be the essence that all of us carry, masculine and feminine energies within us, not talking about sex or gender, but just simply the duality of nature, um, could it be that within each of us there is this, or there has been this journey into the underworld of the feminine, and now we are experiencing that with our masculine side? Could it be that that that's not only going on inwardly, but also outwardly with people in groups, those who identify as women and those who identify as men? I'd be so curious to hear and to study that more, because um, yeah, I it's fascinating. And so um, yeah, my heart goes out the um, to the wounded masculine who may be in the underworld right now, whether that's the wounded masculine in each of us, or men who are wounded by the conditions um, of our society and our cultural context. And yeah, having coming from somebody who knows that one cannot sprinkle oneself with holy water enough to rise up from the underworld because one has had enough of it. Yeah, my heart goes out to anyone and everyone who's still experiencing these underworld dynamics, lessons, challenges. It is not easy. And if you want to talk to me more about that, please let me know, because I'm curious if it's a real thing or if maybe I'm just making it up. But again, who knows? What's the point? Okay. I also want to talk about Venus being conjunct the south node of the moon right now. So, also very potent that this is happening so soon after her underworld journey. We are again being called to review relationships of the past, relationships who are still present with us, and the history of them. And so, and I'm talking all relationships, not just, romantic ones or whatever. I'm talking all different types of relationships, because as I constantly am reminding folks, everything is relational. And so, yeah. And with, um, okay, so I'm just gonna outline a bit of just core evolutionary astrology stuff here first before I dive into it. So we've got the lunar nodes in the North Node Aries, South Node Libra polarity right now, will be for the next year and a bit. And the ruler of the South Node is Venus, and she is with the South Node right now, so that's a very powerful conjunction. We've got the ruler of the North Node, Mars, who is with the Sun, as I was just talking about with Ceres, which is another powerful conjunction, illuminating this full moon in Gemini. And then we also have, again, as has been the case all year, Pluto in the sign of Capricorn squaring the moon's nodes. So, what I see here is the necessity of, in order to move forward in, yes, in order to move forward in our intergenerational healing, into our healing of who we are as people showing up in the world, there must be a examination of past relationships and of the history of relationships. And realizing where one has Perhaps given up their identity, their individual identity, um, for the purpose of merging with another person or having a relationship with another person. And so, because Mars is individuality, Mars is boundaries, and with Mars, Ceres, Sun all conjunct in Sagittarius, it's really painting a picture of like, okay, so if Mars, if that innate powerful force of our individuality, our true raw and real nature, that includes our, our animalistic traits, as we are also human. If that is, what is, we're zooming out into the bigger picture meaning with Sagittarius, right? So it's like, what is the meaning of that? What is what is the meaning of that? And with Mars, I mean, again, maybe I'm making this up, but it seems like um a Mars Sun conjunction can really be bringing up like the present moment, right? Of like, what in the present moment are my boundaries? How does this contribute to who I am? And with Ceres there, the medicine being about nurturing the self, nourishing the self so that the selfhood can be and can grow and expand and take form and take shape through the desires of the self. Mars. And so if one is not taking the time, Ceres, to ground into Mother Earth and really feel into what makes me me? Who am I? And really, it's illuminating this moon in Gemini, so it's like coming up with a list, right? Creating a data point of like, okay, when I take time out and I really shine the light, shine the light of presence, sun on Mars, my individual nature, what is there? And if it is so, I guess for lack of a better word, eclipsed or overshadowed by that South Node in Libra, which can be represented by a losing of oneself through relationship, then great, we've discovered where we are at. We have discovered the ground that we stand upon. Mars and Capricorn square the moon's nodes. We need to be honest about where we are at and take responsibility for that. This present moment, Sun, Mars, Ceres, Sagittarius, feed on the earth, honesty, truth about where we are at in the bigger picture of things, the bigger picture of our relationships. I'm not talking about getting into, I mean, we can, if that helps us understand, we can get into the nitty gritty details of, every relationship and, do the whole Gemini thing of flipping it over this way and looking at it that way and flipping it upside down and turning it back around and being like, okay, so I'm seeing from all the different angles, from all the different ways that I show up in relationship, from all the different like types of people that are in my life and the ways that they treat me, there is this core theme. There are these core dynamics happening. So, what is that about? And what is my responsibility in that? And is it time for me to learn how to set boundaries as a form of taking care of myself? Is it time to let go of past relationships where me being my radiant individual self, chasing the desires of my selfhood, is a threat in the relationship? Does that need to be let go of? Because we also have Mercury, the ruler of this moon, square Neptune. So yeah, there might be some themes of these dynamics currently being in our peripheral vision, unable to notice them, and therefore we remain in the unhealthy dynamics, or it might be coming to light in a really painful way that's begging us to let go of certain relationships that are no longer healthy for us to move forward. Because if I don't, if every individual doesn't know themselves and where they stand, what nourishes them, how they receive nurturance, their truth, then there is this major, messy, distorted, complex layers that happens with every relationship, right? And I mean, pretty much, like, yeah, nobody is immune to this. We all have this going on in some capacity because codependency is all pervasive. This Sagittarius can also be like, the right way and the wrong way, and all of these judgments. And so, that can divide families, that can divide friendships, and that can cause people to disown themselves for the purpose of fitting in with the relationship or the group, right? I'm just gonna have a sip of ginger tea. Ginger is great right now. Ginger, fire, Sagittarius, great for integration. Ginkgo right now, excellent medicine. Air, Gemini, lungs, breathing, stillness, presence. Ginger and ginkgo tea, y'all. Okay. What am I at? Oh my gosh, already 18 minutes. I want to talk about the fact that this full moon is in the sign of Gemini, who is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is sextile the south node and trine the north node, so even more of a reason to really highlight and underline all that I've been talking about in terms of relationships. Mercury, as I said, is square Neptune, and I've already talked about that. But what I really want to lean into is the fact that Mercury is opposing Medusa, who I have a particular fascination with. And it's an asteroid in between, on the main asteroid belt, in between Mars and Jupiter. So I'm just we're going to go into story time because why not? It's Gemini full moon. We can have a bit of story time. I'm going to recount some some basic details of the Medusa story. And I'm not going to go down every rabbit hole because otherwise I would be standing here for hours. As with every story, there's so much complexity in every single symbol involved and what it all means, right? But that's, yeah, with Mercury square Neptune, we don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. Essentially, okay, so Medusa was a sibling of sisters. She was born the most beautiful of her sisters, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom, oh yes, because Medusa was raped by the sea god Neptune, I can't remember his Greek name right now, in Athena's temple of wisdom. Athena then caused Medusa to have a head of snakes instead of her hair, and to turn into the most ugliest Gorgon. Her sisters were Gorgons. She was a Gorgon, but now she was like the ugliest of all Gorgons. And so she had these fangs and this long tongue and snakes for hair, and she if a man were to look at her, if she was to look at a man, he would turn to stone. And so this was her curse, which has a lot of of feminist issues in there, right? We're uncovering the themes of victim blaming and and prejudice against female power and beauty, oppression of it, I should say. And then the story goes on to, oh yes, the king at the time sent Perseus to kill Medusa. And Perseus was granted from various gods. I think Hades, the god of the underworld, granted him an invisible cloak so that Medusa wouldn't look at him. Athena granted him her shield so that she could, so that he could shield Medusa's gaze from him so that he could get close enough to her to behead her. And he did. And he then brought back Medusa's head to Athena, and Athena she put the head on her shield, so it became this this sort of symbol within battle, because you use a shield when you're in battle, right? Of like, don't mess with me. I've got, this ugly symbol on my shield, and she also granted her son. Oh, right. Sorry. Okay, I skipped over a little bit of an important bit. While Medusa's head was being flown over back to Athena, drops of blood fell to the ground, and snakes were born. And so that particular region of the world, I can't remember what it is now renowned for having many snakes. And so this is apparently the origin, the creation story of where the snakes came from. And yes, Athena also gave some blood of Medusa to Asclepius, who was one of the main gods of medicine, and the blood from her, I believe it was, maybe I'm getting this mixed up now, I should have written this down at least, but the blood from the right side of her head um, killed people, and the blood from the left side of her head rose people from the dead. And then she gave there was a vial of the last 2 drops of her blood, and it was said that one of those drops had the power to cure, and the other drop had the power to kill. So, oh, also, another major thing that I overlooked to say was when she was beheaded, her 2 sons were born. One was the winged horse, and the other became a warrior of the golden sword. And so there's obviously a lot here, and there is a lot more to the story. However, what I really want to zone in on is the fact that Medusa is retrograde in the sign of Gemini right now, opposing Mercury, who's in Sagittarius, who's ruling this moon, and it is all square Neptune. And there is this exploration in the story of what Gemini stands for, which is duality, right? We have the duality of the 2 sons being born from her when she is beheaded. We have the duality of the blood from her left side curing people, and the blood from her right side killing people, and the last 2 drops of blood being the cure or the kill. And so, what is that about, right? That's what I'm really wanting to lean into. Might it be that that anything, any thought, any emotion, any act has full spectrum power in this world of duality and polarity that we live in? And how do we experience this? I'm sure that we all know that when a certain sentence is said in a particular tone, like even just, oh yeah, I'm doing fine today, can be I'm doing fine today, or it can be I'm doing fine today, right? Like it it conveys a different message. And obviously that's a really dumb example, but there's there's mm, yeah. I think really the crux of what I'm wanting to get to is coming back to this whole spiel that I gave about relationships and individuality within relationships, and how in relationships, if, for example, an individual is feeling anger come up, how safe does one feel to process that anger within themselves and or within the relationship heavily determines if that anger is providing a cure or providing a kill, right? Of the self, of the relationship, of truth. And so yeah, series again is coming into the picture because it does really have a lot to do with safety. And if there is no safety, then we have to do the whole Mercury square Neptune thing, which is, you know, try our best to take our blinders off to what we cannot see, so that we can see these dynamics and save ourselves from unnecessary pain and suffering. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Otherwise, I'm just going to start rambling. Yeah. This moon is also square Saturn. Venus is also trine Saturn. Medusa's like aspecting every single planet there is right now, so that's a lot. Um, and yeah, I'm definitely going to continue pondering on the Medusa story, and if you have any reflections about her story and its meaning and perhaps how those themes show up in your life, I would be interested in hearing about them in the comments. Um, oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention that the last video that I did, ain't nothing like a Scorpio moon to chase most people away, but it is a video where I describe a bit more in depth about how I set up a therapeutic session with yours truly. You can visit my website in the description below, and it in the video from last time for the new moon a couple weeks ago, I talked about my approach to energy reading and Akashic record reading and blending in evolutionary astrology into a 90-minute therapeutic session, which I have available. So if that is of interest to you, check it out, and I will talk to you all next time. This button is not working to end the video, so I'm gonna do the granny stop.